Mr. Johnny K, how are you?
I'm very good, my friend. How are you?
Not bad, not bad. In the battleground, as you understand, what's happening. We're in the bunkers here in
Yeah,
Melbourne, fighting fruitcakes and people who seem to not understand the responsibilities
yeah,
as responsible citizens of the
yeah.
Victorian state.
It's crazy, man. It's crazy. I don't get it. For the life of me, I don't get it, man. I mean, wear a mask. It's not much to ask, you know?
I don't understand what's the big deal. At the end of the day, I don't like wearing a mask either. I'm not a really mask fan, so to speak. But the reality is that for the sake of the community, for the sake of the majority, because we live in a democracy. If we live in a democracy, Johnny, we have to respect the
That's right.
majority. That's how our democracy works.
Exactly.
People,
Spot on.
unfortunately, have this misconception of themselves that they think in a me, myself, and I mentality that bugger everyone. I'm going to do what I want to do because it's my
Yeah,
my civil right.
yeah.
It is not your civil right. It is our civil right.
Exactly.
As human beings, we vote, we support each other, we support the
That's
neighbourhood,
right.
we support our community. Because if we don't, the last thing we want to do is end up in stage 4 of a
Exactly.
lockdown, which is going to be disaster for all our small
Yeah,
businesses,
they're going to
all
suffer,
our
man.
little cafes. It's gonna close us up totally.
Yeah.
We're going to bankrupt the whole state totally, where our grandkids and great grandkids will be paying for this debt. Do people understand the responsibilities
It's
of living in
crazy,
a
man.
democracy? We don't live in
It's
a
crazy.
totalitarian state. We don't live under an authoritarian state like Putin. We don't live under a totalitarian state like China, for example,
Yeah,
or North Korea.
yeah.
We live in a democracy. We don't like Dan Andrews. We'll vote him out. Simple.
That's it.
We don't want to have votes now. We don't want to have an election now because it's detriment
Yeah,
to how we're going to fight this invincible enemy that we are facing at the moment.
yeah. I saw that post that you put up a few hours ago about the pamphlets that they're sending out. Oh, I
The
lost it, man.
pamphlets, the pamphlets are a real concern because this is now shown to be a subservient, an organisation
Yeah,
that's undermining the not only the state government of Victoria but actually undermining the Australian government. What they're attempting to do is literally call it's something that we have to understand is they're trying to rebut the law and order that we are at the moment. And what they're doing is inciting rebellion
yeah,
and organised rebellion. It's not different rebellion when your individual says, I want to do what I want to do because it's my right, my civil right, my freedom of speech.
yeah.
The issue here is they're inciting a mass rebellion.
That's
And
right.
they've targeted suburbs that, unfortunately, I don't mean to be rude, I don't mean to be demeaning. I need
No, no.
to. People have to understand where I'm coming from when I call it high school dropouts, for example, inverted commas. I'm not trying to demean people. I'm just trying to explain. They're targeting
Yeah,
suburbs that have a problem with law and order
yeah,
in regards to education level. I'm not being mean.
no, it's
It's the
true.
reality. We're going
That's
South Morang,
yeah,
Epping,
yeah,
Thomastown, Laylaw, Airport West,
yeah,
Broadmeadows.
yeah.
That's our big problem, and this is the problem. And they're not targeting Doncaster. They're not targeting
No,
Melbourne. They're not targeting South Yarra. They're not targeting inner city Melbourne, for example. They're
exactly.
targeting suburbs that they feel
Yeah,
that they're the most vulnerable. That
exactly.
we
Exactly.
as in the underhanded movement is actually trying to discredit the government and
Yeah,
rally the mob.
yeah. Man,
What happened in the French Revolution did not happen overnight. It happened over a 50-year
that's
period.
right. That's right. Man, why do you
And this is the
think
problem that people don't know. And most,
why do you
no,
think these people believe that it's a hoax? Why do you think they believe it's not real?
I think it's got more than a hoax now, and I think they're starting to swing. So you've got there was a larger majority that believed in the hoax, and they also believed in the 5G. The 5G
Yeah.
was the creation of this so-called, it was part and parcel of this conspiracy.
Yeah.
I lived through that period in Australia when we changed from analog to digital,
Yeah.
and we didn't have social media at the time, and that was chaotic. People
Yeah.
coming up with all types
Yeah.
Digital's evil, how digital is bad, how digital is radioactive, they're trying to kill us, they're trying to make us more sick, they're trying to make us go to hospital, it's all part of the big pharma, etc., etc. Now, obviously, I mean, and let's be honest, we went through all that trauma. We didn't have social media, though, and because we didn't have social media, it wasn't spread far and wide as it is today.
Exactly.
Well, now, though, 25 years later, we've got social media. And when you've got social media that's got a massive spread, this becomes now a situation that we're facing. We're polarizing our community, our nation, and the world. And the Western world revolves around Pax Americana, the Pax Americana era. I know a lot of people are anti-American. I used to be anti-American. I understand America's foreign policies are terrible over the last 70, 80 years. We understand they made mistakes. But the reality is, at the moment, we need a strong America, because without a strong America, we are going to face that we, as individual countries now, are fighting a virus individually rather than a unified.
Yeah, it's crazy, man.
Happened with SARS in 2000. It's what happened with SARS 2002, the bird flu 2005. The swine flu 2009, Ebola 2014, MERS in 2016, and we can even go further back. In 1957, the Asian flu, 1968, the Hong Kong flu. Everything was targeted. Yes, there were, before they became pandemics. We managed to nullify them or neutralize these viruses they didn't close our economies down.
That's right.
Now we're facing 102 years ago. We've gone backwards.
It's so
One
bizarre.
second, Johnny, to understand, right? The errors that we made. So we've gone back now 102 years during the Spanish flu. The Spanish flu virus was a virus that decimated 18 million people or 60 million people or 50 million people, right? The reality, though, with that is people seem to forget is no nation closed their economy. What I mean by that is the factories were open. The factories were working. You're wearing a mask, yes, and you were supposed to be social distancing. But those factories in 1918, 1919, 1920 were not social distancing factories. Everyone was on top of each other. You had 500 people working in a factory in a confined space of around about, I don't know, whatever, 200 metres, 300 metres. This is what people don't understand. And that's why we lost 50 million to 60 million people. We are trying to avoid that today to minimise the death rate. It's not that hard to understand, and we have to social distance. We have to basically wash our hands, and unfortunately, whether we like it or not, we have to wear gloves. Not gloves, masks.
Gloves too, because with gloves, like if you're at a shopping centre, like you could be touching the railing, you could be touching, the escalator. But masks, absolutely, and even gloves. Depends what you're doing. But I mean, if
people want to wear gloves, that's their prerogative, and that's fair enough on this one here. And I understand that also. But if we go to stage 4, we have to wear gloves. We have to wear masks.
Stage 4, we're fucked. We won't even leave in the house at all, mate.
Business, there'll be no cafes, no food places, no nothing. You have to you can only allow to go out within your suburb to do your shopping and come back home, that's it. You can do a walk around the park for argument's sake, for your health, and that's it. We do really want to go to that level. And these people that are a league, let's call it, are fighting it. They're fighting something that's going to give us more grief in the long term.
I know, man.
It's not that hard to understand.
The way I see it, Kalla, I don't even think we're going to have a Christmas, mate. I don't even think this will be done by Christmas. I'm hoping I'm wrong, but the way it's going, man, fucking 300, 400 cases a day, I don't see it.
Yeah, it's a serious concern, because I actually believed, unfortunately, I'm a travel agent, and I was hoping that by July would be all right, but unfortunately I was obviously wrong there. I believed that we would be able to at least not alienate or eliminate out of Australia, being an island. That backfired. That we can blame that as well. It hasn't backfired in Australia. It's backfired here in Melbourne or in Victoria. So obviously we have to blame at this point. If we're going to finger point anyone, we're going to finger point the Premier, because he's the ultimate responsibility for the state. So now, who's at fault? Whether it's the security guys who couldn't keep their peewees in their pants, or the BLM protests, which again that should be proven.
Dan Andrews should have never allowed that to happen, man. The Black
It
Lives
didn't
Matter.
matter, but the Black Lives Matter protests in Adelaide, Sydney, and Brisbane that didn't have any spikes. It only happened in Melbourne. So we've got to go back to that. Plus, the fact is
Why do you think
that it
that is
doesn't.
though? What do you think they did differently that Melbourne didn't? That's bizarre.
It's differently because the problem was that the virus was affecting us before that, and it was spreading from the security guards, because Melbourne Melbourne was the city that was collecting all the incoming
Well,
Australians.
Melbourne is the busiest state as well. I mean, it's one of
No,
the
no,
busiest.
but 1 second, you got to understand one thing. Melbourne was collecting all the Aussies coming in from overseas.
Yeah. Katalava, yep.
So that means we, as Melbourne, were responsible for these incoming Australians, and they were staying in quarantine hotels, and obviously the security guards the problem we have, and that spread to the point where the BLM protest, unfortunately, one or two of them that was spread ended up in the BLM protest, and that they got they only had three incidences anyway. So it's not necessarily the BLM. It was predominantly with the security guards and the way it spread through their own communities. That's
look, man,
problem.
we are at the end of July, and I think I heard on one of the conferences that on August 16th they're meant to be lifting the lockdown. Mate, if we keep getting 300 to 400 cases a day, I don't think they're going to lift it on August 16th. They're not going to.
But I think that the mask wearing is going to help. It's not foolproof, but it is going to help, and it will slowly bring it down. I'd say by the next 2 weeks, I reckon we'll be down below 200 minimum.
When do you reckon lockdown will be lifted?
I think 16 August is at the moment. If the numbers start dropping.
If the numbers start dropping, I'm telling you, Kalla, if it doesn't drop, I don't see Dan Andrews lifting it. I hope it drops.
I don't think so, but or at least we can sort of flatten it, meaning by flattening
masks
it.
are going to help. You're right. Masks are definitely going to help, but people have to wear them, Kalla. People are fucking stupid, mate. My rights this, my rights that. It's just ridiculous. Human rights. I mean, it's wearing a mask to protect people.
People don't want to. And you're right. The problem is that people see themselves, and so they've got a self entitlement mentality, and that it's my right and no one else.
Yeah.
Live in a democracy, and this democracy, and I can tell you one thing: if these Karens were going in Russia or in Greece with that attitude, they would have been literally. They would have been. No, and I'm not endorsing this behaviour by the police, because I'm very. We don't support police violence, but I can tell you now they wouldn't be walking around. They'd be locked in, thrown in a slammer for 1 week or 2 weeks as punishment, with no questions asked. Here, our police officers actually handled it pretty well, considering the abuse they got, and that Eve Black woman who drove through to break the lockdown, to drive down to Geelong to prove herself and she's Greek, and to prove herself that she's a hotshot, and she managed to cross over the lockdown, and she did her stavro right about it.
That Eve Black, which is not Black, isn't her surname; it's something else. It's funny how the media, the journalism, right? They're so good, they can't even research her proper name. They just go, Eve Black this, Eve Black that. Mate, Channel 7, do some research.
That is true, but you have to remember that that's her name on her Facebook profile. So that's the name they're going to take.
Some of us independently did some digging. We found out her real name. Why can't Channel 7?
100%.
Laziness, mate. Laziness by Channel 7.
Well, okay. Well, Channel 7, mate. I mean,
that woman was crazy, man. That woman was nuts.
Well, she wanted to prove that she could do it. That's what it is. It's all about her self-entitlement. That's the problem. They're not understanding that we live in a community. They don't understand that we're living together, and whether we like it or not, we have to work together. If we don't work together, we're not going to. We're just going to be fractured, and it's going to be it's anarchy. We need to respect law and order, because without respecting law and order, we, the majority, will give the keys to the government to create a totalitarian state, literally, because it will be us endorsing his behaviour, because all of a sudden we want a strong leader. We like a strong leader. Show it, put him into jail, show the Karens of this world that you have not. So we're playing the game. Yeah. We have to understand is that we live in a democracy, and in a democracy, the majority, 51% or 50.001%, has got over the 49.999%. That's how it goes. That's what it means, democracy. Unfortunately, people don't understand it. As I said, it's all about me, myself, and I, and it's all about my self-entitlement because, I'm born gifted or I'm born whatever. I mean, it's insane. I mean, here we've got the other email message has been shared is that another rebellion that's going to happen sometime in September, and they're going to put young Fanos Panagidis as one of their ministers in this new coup d'etat that's going to happen in Victoria in September. I mean, it is insane what people believe.
That guy, he's just not.
It doesn't matter. He voices opinion. It is up to us to debunk his opinion, to explain to some of these people who might think, maybe he's got a point, maybe no, yes. Yeah. He's got a point because A, B, C, D. We live in a democracy, John, and Johnny. At the end of the day, is that democracy? We are allowed to voice opinions. Now, what you might think of Fanos and what I might think of Fanos is
because I never trash people and say anything. I don't want to say anything bad about anyone, and I'm not going to. But this Fanos character. He's not all there, Kalla. That's all I'm going to say. He's not all there, mate. He's not all there.
He's a serious concern, and again we go back to the point that I've been saying is that monkeys will lead monkeys, and that is the concern. The day we reject our intellectuals, the day we reject our scientists, is the day that we go backwards, and we might as well end up in caves.
And that's if we everyone that's like that, not just Fanos. That's everyone, man. There's so many of them.
No, it's because the Western world has been fractured by misinformation, by propaganda. It's what happened in the Cold War. The same thing. Pravda was there, the mouthpiece of the USSR, and they used to give their newspapers. They used to go word of mouth to the newspapers, hand delivered to homes all over the West. And in Pravda, you would read what a glorified society Russia was, because socialism was working in Russia, and how flawed and evil and terrible was the Western democracies who were run by the imperialist Americans, and and this is the reality, because Vietnam fell to communism. North Korea fell to communism.
That's right.
Eastern Europe fell to communism because those people actually believed they were doing something good for democracy, and yet before they realized it, they were living in a totalitarian state with no rights, no nothing, and a big brother overlooking them.
That's right, man.
And this is why the West...
I saw that latest post you just did about 20 minutes ago, probably about an hour or so now, about the Bunnings, the lady. What are your thoughts on that, man?
Karen and Bunning. Well, there you are. She's a science. So we've reached the stage now that we as a society, that our grandparents and parents came all the way to Australia to help, to give us education, to enlighten us, to become better people, meaning by education-wise. And then we've got today, we're left with who? A psychic, a psychic healer, I should say, who's telling us, who's trying to tell us to lead the way, and we're going to believe her and not Dr. Fauci or our scientists worldwide.
And first of all, it's a condition of entry that, they can make you wear a mask or they can check your bags.
It's a private company.
Check your bags, it's been like that everywhere. But the mask thing, it's a condition of entry. And for her to say,
Johnny, it's a private company. It's not a public. It's not a public.
Well, that's right. They can tell them to fuck off for whatever reason. That's right. It's like, you don't like it, get out.
Correct.
But
correct.
Discrimination. She goes Kalla. They don't even know what they're talking about, mate. They're googling something.
Problem.
They're googling something in the parking lot for 5 minutes, and they're going inside saying, "Look at this! Look at this!"
Because they believe a YouTube channel over a book on history. So it's cognitive dissonance, and this is the problem. And I always believe that there's only one type of people who fall for this garbage. Was that, unfortunately, in regards to us, is the scorpion issue that's been going on and for 70 years, and we're trying to explain to them that 99% of the historians saying what the Macedonians were, they were Greek in origin, whatever, for argument's sake, and these guys were saying, no, they're not, they were, and whatever. So we always believe that it's obviously propaganda on a particular nation. But this propaganda now seems to work across the board with plebs who now, and I don't mean to be disrespectful, because I am a pleb, just as much as you. We are plebs, but we are trying to be better plebs. We're trying to become better citizens understand how the system works, for example, not to stay in that mind frame. And we try and educate. I've got books. I read. I try and educate myself. I mean, you can see. Here's there's books here, for example. One of my libraries, books galore, and all the back there, and all the back up there. There's books.
You're gonna
and this is what it's all about.
Kalla. You're gonna love this, Kalla. Listen to this, and feel free to steal this one. I can't remember where I heard it, but I heard it somewhere. Whoever it was, he was a wise person. They said the best way to learn is by reading books, going to a library. Now, there's still libraries around, even though 5 people go to them. You go to a library and you read books there.
Correct.
You want to know why? Because books, the text in the books, that doesn't change. If you go on the internet, 10 minutes later, it'll change. That changes.
Books don't change. And I agree, you read books, but again, you read a book and you cross-reference it. You don't just take this particular book and say, okay, he's right. You match his claims, you cross-reference his claims.
By a few decades, but that's what you said, you cross-reference.
You cross-reference because I'll take this Professor Green's book against Professor Woodhouse for argument's sake, and I'll match it. And that's what you do. You cross-reference it. And all you do is, as long as they match or come close to matching, then you can say, yes, it's credited.
That's right.
But, we can have historians who can come up with 10-year theories on this one here, but if there's no cross-reference where their claims are misleading or misinformation, then he becomes discredited. Because if a historian turns around and said something happened in 1750, for example, and you can't find this incident nowhere else, then you have to say that this unfortunate historian has got it wrong, and he's been discredited.
That's right. Spot on.
That's how we cross-reference. Now, 1952, for example, no one. It's something we don't know about, but this is how it affects us today. 1952, it's called the London smog disaster. December the 5th, 1952.
Okay. Yeah.
There was a fog that came into London. There was, because Churchill at the time was overburdened the economy with the factories. The coal fumes mixed with the fog came in and it created a smog. From the 5th of December to the 9th of December, 4,000 people died by inhaling the fumes, which are poisonous, and it killed 4,000, and another 6,000 died from the side effects from that over a period of time.
Wow.
People don't, and this is again, Churchill made a mistake, because when they were asking Churchill, what are we going to do with this? But the scientists warned him. He said, "Why? It's only a fog. Big deal. It's all cold weather. Of course, it's going to be cold in December." But the reality is that fog was bringing the smog from the factories, bringing that with it too, and it created these deaths. And yet, Churchill was responsible for that. He, as the Prime Minister, should have acted that respected his scientists, but he didn't.
Yeah. That's right.
Just in Spain, the same thing in Spain. We never, in the Spanish flu era, we never closed the factories. No one did. No nation did, because it didn't suit them, because they couldn't afford. They forced people to go to work. They instilled social distances. They forced them to wear masks. But if I'm going to wear a mask and I'm on top of you and my other mate's on top of me and we're working together in the factory, it doesn't matter the mask or gloves. You've got to cop it.
Exactly.
I mean, which flu? Tell me which flu. Which influenza flu has killed 600 frontline doctors and nurses in 3 months? From end of April from the end of April to early June, we have lost worldwide 600 frontline doctors and nurses because of the COVID virus. Now, can someone tell me how many of these frontline doctors died from influenza or flu, or just the flu, as they claim? And this is your problem. They can't answer that. Then we also go and you make the comparison. The flu season in America is from October to end of April. That is the traditional flu season that's been decimated the American society for how many years over this period. But we're in July.
Yeah.
This is July. This is not the flu season. And we get 2 days ago, they lost in death. Died, gone, kaput. So if it's a flu, how could it be a flu? and it's killing people in summer. You can't get a flu in Greece in summer. It's impossible.
That's right.
You can't get the flu in Greece in Spain, in Greece, or in Italy. These countries have got a dry summer.
Yeah.
So it's impossible to get a flu. And yet, okay, not in Greece are doing well. But yet Spain had another dozen deaths. And
How is Greece
infections.
doing? Do you have a lot of people at home? What's it like in Greece, the coronavirus? Nothing like here,
It's
obviously.
good. Nothing like here, but there were a couple of spikes. Unfortunately, the spikes were not happening on the Greek islands where the tourists were going.
In the Chogio, all those places in the islands, nah. But in metropolitan Athens, oh yeah.
No, not that bad, but happened up north in Khalkidiki. Because why? Now this is where it gets interesting, is because we were having direct flights from Belgrade to Thessaloniki.
Yes.
And what happened is the Serbian tourists brought the virus in northern Greece, and the spikes were happening because of the Serbian tourists. Yeah. So they stopped flying. They stopped allowing Serbians to come into Greece when they realised that on this one end there was 20 or 30 that were infected around about 4 weeks ago or 5 weeks ago. Oh no, not 4. Around about early mid-July.
This has to be a huge shock for Greece as well, because this is probably the first time in 100 years since there've been no one at the beach, like all the locals, but all the tourists. This year's gone to shit. So Greece
correct,
is probably
correct.
what the fuck, man? No tourists, no nothing. This is a first for Greece.
Yeah, I know. This is the tragedy that was happening.
And the economy, they rely on that economy over the
well, last year Greece did 33 million tourists, struggling to get around about 2 million, if that.
Yeah, man. It's
a massive drop.
It's crazy.
And that's the problem. People have to understand it's not hard, just wear a mask. Get over it.
They go on about human rights. Look, human rights is for and against, I have human rights too. Look, I'm big on human rights. Now, I get asked to wear a mask. It's my right to wear one if I want. I choose to wear one. Then they call you, you're a sheep. Hold on. Why am I a sheep? It's my right to wear one if I want to, isn't it? I'm choosing to wear one. But they still call you a sheep.
Because they
have an agenda. They have an agenda.
Their agenda is, it's not necessarily an agenda. What it is they're behaving the same way as they're accusing our government behaving against them. They're behaving the same way. So they're saying,
am I right to wear a mask? I choose to wear one. They judge me for it. But when we tell them to wear a mask, don't tell me what to do. Well, don't tell me what to fucking do. If I want to wear a fucking mask, I'll wear a fucking mask. Hypocritical, man. They're just double standards and just stupid, man. Ignorance,
They unfortunately, they move the posts around. It suits the narrative. That's the other problem.
Exactly.
And once you start moving the posts around, you've got a problem.
Exactly. Spot on, mate.
And this is where we are at the moment, and this is why we're all in such a mess, is because we've got people just changing the narrative as it suits them. We understand it's the anti-vaxxers that are behind most of the using proxies like Famous Panagi, this is the 99%ers, and all other conspiracy groups, because their theory is that they object to vaccinations. Now, whether vaccinations are good or not, it's not the point. What we do know, hold on one second, What we do know is this, and let that sink into we understand in regards to the importance of vaccinations. 40, 50 years ago, we were averaging 700,000 children under the age of 5 were dying worldwide every week. Yeah. Every week, the world was losing on average. Not on average, sorry. Let's call it whatever average. Under the age of 5, 700,000 children a week. Yeah. Yes, mostly from third world countries. I understand that. From stillbirths and from whatever diseases and whatever they were getting. We're down to the last figures that came out, 218, if I'm correct, or 217 or 218. We're down to 120,000. Yeah. We've saved over the last 40 years 580,000 children under the age of 5 have given them a chance to live beyond their fifth year. That alone should tell you how important science is to us. Exactly. And that is something we have to respect and something we have to all understand. Because when you go sick, Johnny, you don't go to a naturopath. You don't go to some witch doctor. You don't go to some kida spirula who reads your coffee in the cafeneo. You will go, I would go, we'll go to a doctor.
Spot on.
So if I'm going to go to a doctor when I'm sick, so why am I not listening to a doctor now who's warning us to wear a mask?
Exactly. Exactly. It's not a big thing to ask, you know. I just don't know why they can't do it, man. I don't know, man. It frustrates
It goes back to it goes back, and there was during the Spanish flu in San Francisco, they had an anti-mask league that would take them to court, and it was chaos. And in December 1918, they flattened the curve in San Francisco, and the anti-mask league took them and were lobbying, and eventually the mayor at the time relented that he felt that we got rid of the Spanish flu. He took the law away, so he allowed people to walk free, and within 4 weeks, guess what happened? People got infected again and resurfaced in San Francisco, and it cost 3,000 lives over 1919. And there you have, I mean, that's the example we should learn from history.
Most of these cases, I heard Dan Andrews say, I think it was today or the other day, most of these cases are unknown. They're under investigation. I reckon, and I don't know for sure, but if we're getting 300 to 400, close to 500 a day, aside the nursing homes, aside a few other cases and breakouts, a lot of them, they're under investigation. I think people are just not listening, man. And probably from that end, those suburbs, going out, a lot of people are doing parties that have to be broken up. It's crazy, man. People are just living their life like normal. And I think this is why we can't get the fucking number to go down.
I think they're starting to learn, because now it's hitting us, because now yesterday we lost 2 more Greeks. We're up to now 14 Greeks that have died, and now the separation, and I emphasize it with the Greek community, for example, our separation is around about 2 degrees separation. Yeah. So people now are seeing actually some people that they know that could be that was their parents or their grandparents, and this is where it's going to hit home. So slowly, but it's going to take a little bit of time to comprehend it. But I think they're starting to realise that this virus, it's not a hoax, and maybe, just maybe, it's a bit more dangerous than just the flu. That's the key.
I think they're going to realise it, mate. I think they're going to realise it. I just hope it's not too late, you know.
No, I know. That's the key, and that's the key about the whole thing on this one here, is basically working out how we're going to do it, and how we're going to avoid the situation we're in at the moment.
Yeah.
And how we're going to help the nation and help our state, because there was nothing better than hearing. I mean, I was watching the game, Kalla versus Port Adelaide on Saturday night, and the roar of the crowd was magnificent, and it's something we miss, and that's what it's all about, isn't it? I mean, with the freedom to go to the footy, the freedom to go to the city, the freedom to go to a bar and catch up with some friends and have a drink, and we're missing that, and we need to get back to our normality.
Yeah. Man, other cities, man, they've got the footy, man. They've got thousands in attendance. It's just here. It's just Melbourne, man. We're fucked.
Yeah, correct. So that's a responsibility. So the conspiracy that it's a move or the cabal to conquer Australia and make us all slaves, obviously it's fallen on flat ears, because that's the realities. Western Australia, South Australia, Queensland and Tasmania and the Northern Territory, guess what? Virus-free. So is New Zealand, by the way. So the only 2 states at the moment we become Mexico, and you've got New South Wales that's sort of handling a lot better than us at the moment. Yeah. And any type of spike, they're managing a lot better. So we're the ones that are failing it, and probably mainly because we have to lay the blame anywhere. We have to lay the blame on misinformation that is affecting us. Maybe the fact is that 99% group of Panos Panagidis and his 66,000 followers, who's around about 40,000 of them are from Melbourne, have got it, and they live in those.
That's what I'm saying, man. It's coming from them, like it's. I mean, it's obvious. I mean, they're going out like billboards, man. It's like billboards. They're telling everyone to do the wrong thing, man. I just hope we get the numbers out of control. I really hope so, man, because the amount of damage they're all doing.
We hope so, Johnny. We hope so, mate. We just hope that we just improve on that. We just be better people, and we learn our lesson to, as human beings, to be positive and believe in positivity rather than believing in negativity and believing in this half-empty glass. It's actually a half-full glass, and just all we have to do is change our attitude. We have to change our attitude, because we have to believe and have faith in a fellow human being.
That's right.
That's the key. And these fellow human beings are our neighbours, our cousins, our friends, and that's what it's all about. Work together. Together we'll beat it. And if it's wearing a mask, we have to wear a mask. We have to wear gloves, we've got to wear gloves.
Yeah.
That's what we have to do. COVID is real. It probably has got a death rate of around about 1 to 1.5%.
Yeah.
We understand it, Flo. But let's calculate the 1% of 25 million Australians.
Yeah.
That's 250,000 Australians going to die. Do we really want or can live with that?
Yeah,
Seriously?
that's right.
250,000 Australians? I mean, that's the reality. We have to be realistic. We have to be accountable. We have to be transparent.
Yeah.
That's what we're facing. Do you really want that?
Yeah, spot on, man. Here, we can wrap
Anyway.
up with the Thellies here. We can wrap up. Thank you
Hey, Johnny, all
for
the best,
joining
mate.
me live on the podcast.
Hey, mate. Done.
Yeah, thata
Done.
pume, mate. Thata pume.
Hey, mate.
Ade,
Yes, mate.
ciao.
Take care, buddy. Yeah.